In the last video, I showed you how to cut up your circle, rearrange the sector pieces so that you could make a shape that's more similar to a parallelogram. And in this example here, you can see, well, what happens when you make the pieces larger? Well, you see this little bit of a curvature at the top of your new parallelogram and the curvature at the bottom. So you'll say, well, how accurate is that going to be if I use the, um, the length or the base, okay? So the more congruent sectors that we use, the closer the area is going to be to that area of the circle. Okay, so in this example here, you can see many tiny little triangles that were cut out of this bigger circle. So the area of this parallelogram, if we use this is our base and this and our height here, right? So it's going to be more accurate if we make these triangles smaller so that we cut up our circle a little bit more precise, okay? So the first thing we want to look at is we're going to look at the height. Now you guys have already learned that the height is from the bottom to the top. This right here, that's going to be our height of our parallelogram. So where does that come from? Where does the height actually come from? Well, we'll notice that in the middle of the circle, okay, in the middle of the circle, starting right there, it goes anywhere out. So it could be on one of the edges of this triangle, could be right through the middle, okay? So any of those distances. So I'm just going to go straight up the middle of that triangle there. So that's going to be the same as the distance from here to here, okay? Which is the same distance as our bottom to our top. So where did this height come from? Well, what is this called in the circle? Well, from the middle to the outer edge, a straight line, that is our radius. Okay, so let's just write that down. The radius equals the height. Okay, so when you're looking for trying to figure out the height of your parallelogram, you're just going to use the radius. So I'm actually just going to put R right there. So I know we usually in a parallelogram use H for height or W for width, but since we're really trying to calculate the area of a circle, we're going to say that our height is actually our radius, which it is. Okay, so now you know how to figure out what the height is. So we're going to use our R. Now we know that trying to find area of this parallelogram is area equals base times height, and our height has already turned into a radius. So now what we got to figure out is what is the base? What are we going to use for the base? Okay. So let's figure out what that length is. So where did the two long sides of the parallelogram come from? So where did this and where did this come from? Okay, so if we explore, you'll see that they are the top of those triangles. Okay, so just like if we look at the circle here, it is the top of these triangles here. So the whole circle would be top and bottom. So this top, we could say, would be right here, would be these lengths right here. So that top half of the circumference could be the top there. And then I'll just use, let's use blue here. And then I'm going to say that the other half of the circumference is going to be the top of these triangles here. Okay, so the whole circumference gives you the top length and the bottom length together. So check it out. We already know to find circumference, or in this case, both sides, top and bottom, this was our equation, okay? And we learned that in the last videos. So 2 times pi times r, because remember we did the radius times 2 to get the diameter, and then the diameter times pi gives you your circumference. But that is giving you both. I don't want to know for length, so we'll use base. For base is just from here to here, okay? It's not the bottom and the top, it's just from the left to the right, okay? So how do we find out 1? Well, instead of going timesing it by 2, we're just going to say one side is pi times r, okay? So our base is actually going to be, to find that out, it's going to be half of our circumference. So we're just going to go pi times r. So that's how we find the length of this, with pi times r, okay? So we would have to know what our radius is, and then we just times that by pi, and that's going to give us our base, okay? So, and just as a refresher, in the last video, we said that to get the height is, so from here down to here, that was just the radius, okay? So this is how we're going to use the circle, so the radius and the circumference to find our area here, okay? So we've broken it down to figure out, well, this is how we find our height. We use the radius. This is how we find our length. We use pi times r, or sorry, our base, okay? So let's figure this out in a question here. It says the radius is 2 feet, okay? So let me just write that in here. So we'll say, okay, our radius there is 2 feet. Absolutely, there we go. So we're going to look back to what we said. Well, this is our height. So we have, which is the radius. So this is 2 feet. Okay. Now we said that we're going to be, the bottom or the base here is going to be half of our circumference. So you would have to use the, you could find out the whole circumference and divide it into 2, but we're going to use that little formula I told you. It was, let's just go back for a second, look at it. It was base equals pi times r. So all we got to do is go pi times r, okay, to find out what our base is. So let's do that. I'm going to use my scientific calculator here. Pi times r, which is 2, equals, so our base equals 6.2, and I'll round it to 2 decimal places, 28. There we go. So check it out. Now we have a base of 6.28 feet. We have a height of 2 feet. So area of a parallelogram equals base times height. So we're going to go equals 6.28. That's our feet times our height, which is 2. And so our area equals 12.5, I'll round it to 7. And remember, our units are in feet, and we are calculating area. So we did feet times feet, 2 dimensions, so it's going to be squared. So our answer is 12.57 feet, okay? In the next video, so in the video so far, we've broken down how to find the different dimensions of the circle if we change it into a parallelogram. But you know what? We'll make it even simpler. We'll rearrange that formula to make it simpler just to find area in the next video.